What's good, y'all? You guys are now tuned into the Blackstalgia podcast, a podcast that highlights key moments in Black culture from the past and current news that intertwine with figures from, the past today. And we're giving it to you from a perspective of millennials living in the 2020s. And I don't know. I'm feeling kind of foggy today. I'm not going to lie.
Foggy?
Yeah, kind of
What's
foggy.
that?
You gotta stop smoking before you do the show.
I don't smoke before the show, man. I don't smoke before the show.
Oh, he does. You do after?
No. I don't smoke after either because I'm at work, guys. Come on,
Gotcha.
guys.
After he's
You guys
selling.
trying to implicate me.
No.
Okay.
Selling.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Cubby
What's
Murphy
up, y'all?
locked up so bad.
What's up, y'all? What's up? What's happening?
Chilling, man. What's up with you guys, man?
Chilling.
How's y'all Tuesday?
Man, it's
It's
Liddy
Tuesday.
Titty, man. Yeah, it's good.
Liddy Titty?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
You heard him.
please.
I like this new look, Todd.
What new look?
The stash.
It's like a stash.
That narco stash.
With the 330 beard.
Yeah, he's acting like he doesn't know.
Yeah,
he knows
acting
this
like,
shit up.
yeah. I know he's been getting all the swipes since he
Look at
did the
him.
little new.
He's sitting here with the legs crossed.
Right. He
No.
looked like Freddie Black Mercury.
Grown man today. He came here grown man vibes.
As soon as you said millennial, he was like, me?
Don't call me that.
Yeah. I saw Mission Impossible Fallout, so I was trying to do the facial hair like Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
I rock with it.
Yeah.
I couldn't pull it off. Like I tried that when I watched Narcos like a couple years ago, and I tried to do that. Like I had the 5 o'clock shadow that the mustache more defined. People made fun of me.
Oh, yeah. They said you look like a pedophile?
No, I didn't get that. They tried to say I look
I
like a
got
fake
that.
Mexican.
Whoa.
Oh.
I was
damn.
like, damn, that's how y'all feel?
Nah, that's
Shots fired.
They don't know what good is.
Nah.
When
Wait,
I did it, people said I either look like a pedophile or.
did you leave the
70s
beard
porn.
though? Did you 5
Yeah.
o'clock shadow the beard?
Yeah, it was more like 230 hard.
It was kind of
Yeah.
low, super low.
Very low.
That's a little much.
But people were like, "Yeah, you look like you do porn," and I was just like, "I'm not sure." if
Todd
that's
looks
a
like he
good or
does
bad
porn.
thing.
What?
Definitely.
He definitely does look like
No.
That's my
the
guy,
stash.
Todd.
I don't see that.
Follow him on Instagram.
It's the stash, man. The stash brings out like
No,
different
don't
energy.
follow me on Instagram. Follow my OnlyFans account.
Oh, and
This man super spicy today.
damn. All right, Toddy. I guess he's not foggy.
See, so that's where the extra money is coming from, huh?
He did.
He's been getting
kinda
flued
level
out a
up
lot.
little
He's
bit.
getting flued out.
Oh,
Damn.
Lord.
Boy, don't say nothing. Don't say
say-
nothing.
well,
We
we
on
ain't
a
gonna say
pri-
nothing.
now
We
we
ain't
on
gonna say
public platform.
gonna say
Put a
nothing.
business on them.
Just know, man. Todd is like a fly guy. He gets flued out. That's it.
facts.
I get what?
Flued out.
What does that mean?
Flued out. You know what
Flued
flued
out?
out means?
Nope.
He really is not a millennial.
No.
All right, so when you get flown out, it's for business.
Is that like
purposes,
lit?
Okay. When you get
Pay attention.
flued out,
Flown out is for business. Flued out.
and that's for pleasure, Toddy.
You see exactly.
Okay.
So I
when
got
someone-
flued out.
When somebody needs your presence, okay, you gonna get flued out.
Flued out. You
Okay.
heard?
But
Are you talking about Miami?
Loki, I think Todd pays for his own tickets.
I mean,
Yeah, I pay for my own tickets.
he's independent,
He
man.
flew himself out.
He's
I'm
independent.
flued myself.
Flued himself. He's still flued out either way. Either way, you flued out.
I ain't mad at it. I like it.
Flued
You
out.
know, I wish somebody liked me.
It's gonna come one day, man. You know.
Nah, we good.
I mean, so you good? So you good being single?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
Forever?
Come on, let's get into the show.
Oh shit! All right.
Getting
So-
emotional.
First thing we do want to say, rest in peace to Katherine Johnson,
Yes.
the NSA mathematician who was depicted in the movie Hidden Figures. Her greatest, well, she said it herself, her greatest contribution was, to helping the space exploration and making it possible to put, the white man on the moon.
Yeah.
One thing about that, I do think it's horrible that like before the movie, NASA did not highlight her role, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So I think like I don't know. It is odd that it takes a movie to educate people when the source itself did not make it known. Like, hey,
Yeah.
this is somebody who helped us in these situations. Even throughout the years, I wonder if the movie didn't come out, would people have known? Like, would she have been highlighted? Would she have gotten her flowers while she was still alive?
I don't think so. I think it's a big part of like sharing Black stories, and I know especially every year around Black History Month, they're really pushing with social media. We can now put that out there where we can share those stories.
Right.
I think it would have come to light and it would have been highlighted, but not in the way that it was with having the film, and especially having such a great cast in it too brought a lot of attention to it. And I think that's good. And that's also why I think it's really good to have representation in film and in movies and to tell those stories, even if they aren't verbatim or they're made a little more dramatic, but at least we're telling those stories so that people are able to know that there's this powerful Black woman behind something as big as advancing space exploration.
Right.
Yeah, man, I agree. Is there a book? Do you know if there's a book?
I'm not sure, but there
I don't
gotta be. If there's a movie, there can't be a movie without a book.
That happens.
That'd be crazy.
Every once in a while.
Yeah,
But not even
that is possible.
But like on a real life figure like this, though,
Yeah,
Maybe.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, rest in peace to her, man. It's beyond amazing, you know,
Yeah.
their contributions, and you know, to think that they call them computers,
Right.
you know, in the
Mhm.
past is just such a interesting term, because you know what we know computers, what they are today, pretty much just means is that woman and the team who put those astronauts on the moon are geniuses,
Mhm.
you know, and maybe that's the reason why they didn't want to tell the story until they did.
Yeah.
You know, because maybe nobody looks at us like that, you know, until we prove ourselves. So,
I'm just
Oh,
happy
shit.
she was able to get highlighted and recognized like that before she passed away.
yeah.
Right.
Just so she got credit for all the greatness that she did.
Yeah. It's really amazing.
Shit,
Rest in
agreed.
peace.
One that's like a little bit less, I guess. I can't find the right word right now, but distinguished, I guess, is, you know, R.I.P to Pop Smoke as well.
Yeah.
Some
definitely.
people kind of feel, you know, a certain way about that because he came from a certain lifestyle. So people just say, some people just chalk it up as, you know, that comes with it.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it's a sad thing to see. Like, regardless of, you know, whatever else transpired before he became famous or a rapper,
Mhm.
it still is like that cycle we're seeing in front of us. You know, we could name 100 names. Like, there's Tupac, Biggie, there's like Pop Smoke now, there's Nipsey. There's so many different rappers and people that we see from the black community who reach success and then get taken out in a violent way by our own people.
Mhm.
Quickly.
So like, what do you guys think the stem of that is? Like, what like why does it happen? Like, why is it a thing where it's like, okay, we'll march whenever a white cop or something, you know, or somebody kills a black person, when the George Zimmerman does it, but then when we see these things like Pop Smoke, for a small amount of time, people are concerned, people want to change, but then we see it happen right again.
Mhm.
Like, the scary part is, like, there's gonna most likely be another one. So what do you guys think the root or the stem cause of that is?
I would say that there's a lack of accountability amongst ourselves. When somebody else does something to us, we are so ready
Right.
to chastise and call out and do what we have to do to make ultimate change.
But what do you think that stems from, though?
However, think about hip hop culture, which stems from horrid history, poverty, violence, and then the only genre where people need to live what they rap, be what they rap about. And again, I don't know what Pop Smoke died of, like what the implications of that situation was. I don't know, but one can make a speculation. But when it comes to us, it's almost like we don't like being at fault. We're gonna say, oh, we need to make a change, blah blah, and we know, statistically, there is quite a bit of violent crimes, black against black, and we speak about it, but we don't. Our actions don't show that we truly want that to change. It could be a variety of things, because when we hear those raps, we glorify the shooting, the killing, the violence, and all that stuff. And then when it happens, we're like, oh man. But imagine if somebody switched up their raps to start talking about something more positive, then all of a sudden we don't want to hear it anymore.
But is it the raps? Because there's also movies. It's like
Definitely.
but
It-
that
it's
goes
a
back to that
culture.
debate
It's
that's been going on
cultural.
for so long, where it's like they'll blame hip hop, but then the rappers will be like, "What? This visual representation of people killing."
It's the
people.
whole thing. It's the whole thing. It's glorified. From mob movies, and we know black people love mob movies. Like I heard Birdman talking the other day about how like he wanted to operate Cash Money as a mafia.
Right.
There's a lot of glorification of these things in our culture, where maybe other cultures watch it for entertainment and they're like, I don't want to be a part of that, because the repercussions are there and they don't want to participate in that. But on our end, we don't take it seriously because, hey, we did it to each other. Well. And
Yeah.
then there's always an excuse too. Well, it's because we're from a poor place, or this and that, or the government doesn't care about us, or this. There's always an excuse to even if there are certain things that can be done to make changes, it's not really accepted in order to make those changes. So I think as a people, we have to just aspire to want more for each other, for ourselves, and then for each other.
I mean, see, I don't know. I think it's a lot of different things, though. I don't know, man. I feel like part of it though is like, all right, there's definitely a part we have to be accountable for, right? As
Sure.
people.
Yeah.
But I think another thing of it stems from, again, like the history of slavery and abuse in America.
Yeah.
The only reason I say that is because I think the circumstances like our people are placed in it kind of puts like an underlying feeling of scarcity, and not one that's like of abundance that other races tend to have, who
Sure.
weren't under the same oppression. That makes sense, because it's
Yeah.
like, all right, if you put a group of people in the bottom and you feed them scraps, they're gonna look at each other and they become each other's enemy. Because then it's like you can't reach the higher power structure who has actual control, but you just look at the people around you and go, okay, if you're getting this, I'm not getting this because you have it. So then that creates, I think a lot of it stems, it creates like envy.
Sure.
And then it also creates you to look at your own people as competition for survival, not just like to have nice things for survival. So I feel like with Pop Smoke, I feel like a big part of it is he comes from this, poor background. And of course he has enemies, but if they see him winning now, I think that's what made it happen so fast. I think if he didn't pop off, he wasn't famous, he would have lived a lot longer.
Definitely.
But because he's having money now, he's with these celebrities, he's having this heightened lifestyle. It just, the people who already hated him, you hate him times 10 more. You want to end that.
Or
So I
even
feel like
friends,
or even friends. You never
who
know.
wish that it was them. I think at this point in time, we have to educate the upcoming youth that even though you're in a situation right now, you don't have to go down a certain path. You don't have to. Things can be difficult. You can't pay your rent. You can't pay your this. You can't pay your that. There is aid. There is aid beyond government aid. Like if you are part of something like a church or something like that, where aid can come in multiple forms, whether it's mental aid, companionship, your community helping one another. But it doesn't have to be like, hey, yo, I'm about to make this lick. I'm about to sell this money, because again, it's glorified. There are songs where Jay-Z is talking about sold drugs, got away. And it's like, everyone is just like, oh, shoot, if I just sell drugs and I stay in it for 6 months, I'm good. And it's like, that doesn't have to be the only option. It's not the only option. Though we may think like when you're there in that situation, in poverty, ultimate poverty, and that's all you see, no one is informing these children that OG who's on the block selling drugs and he got the coolest stories and all that stuff, that's not cool. It's not cool.
See,
And then there's also a push against formal education as well. Every day on the internet, you can sit and listen to somebody who tells you that your school is no good, it's pointless, it's dumb, it's this, watch these 6 YouTube videos and you're going to get rich. And there is this ultimate societal ban against education, where ultimately, if these children in impoverished neighborhoods not necessarily only learned like, oh, let me just get my high school diploma or let me just get a college degree, but they had education that supported a skill that they had or have or whatever, that will allow them to earn a lifestyle that is different than how they grew up, things would be different. But
Well,
there is this ultimate goal of like, if it doesn't happen right now, then you'll never get it.
I think it's an interesting. Two things you said are interesting though to me. It's like, one, I think you're definitely right that there's resources for help, but I feel like number one, those resources aren't enough to help everybody, because some people are super deep into their situations. So like,
well, I
think
mean, they weren't born that way.
they were. That's the thing though. I feel like
some of them are.
I feel like America's
What
history.
kind of situation?
Like America's history is so deep, especially against our people, where it's like, for example, the crack era. That fucked up so many family dynamics that created different levels of trauma, different levels of like disadvantages for people, and that set them back generations. So then it's like, this kids having to like relearn and recreate advancements that were done, that were broken because of the crack era.
Sure.
So I think some people, like, we have to be honest about the way America's set up. It's not set up for everybody to win. And I feel like there's a reason, like, for example, it's been proven that like the CIA used to drop guns off in alleys in the ghetto. So like there's literally pushing crime onto like people who are starving. So not everybody's gonna go, I'm gonna take 6 months or a year to go to school and learn this and do that. And it's like, we're suffering right now.
And then on top of that, they're desperate in these situations.
Right.
And
Definitely.
it is, do believe it is glorified.
For some it's glorified. But I think for some others, it's like real. It's real life.
All you can do. When it comes down to it, there may not be another choice, and it could be that's the only way to get food on your table. And they're put in these situations, and then we're turned against each other because we're all fighting to survive. And one meal on the table could be a lost meal for someone else. So it's life or death in these situations. And I think I mentioned this before with Black History Month. I feel like we don't highlight other options for
That's
people.
what I'm saying.
And
Yeah.
there, so like Kelby was saying, there are a lot of different options, but they aren't presented to them. It's presented in a way where the only way you can make money, the only way you can get out of this is to sell drugs, is to do this, is to hustle. And we're hustling to sell drugs, and we're using guns, we're using violence, when we could be hustling to become entrepreneurs. But we're not taught that. We're not given that option. We're not highlighting these Black figures who are entrepreneurs.
But I think those options are not really there though.
Even if, but they are.
No, but like for some people, I want to say,
Sure,
I feel like they're there, but for not all people, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Because like there's kids who like every kid is their mind and mental space is in a different area.
Sure.
So those programs who are there to help, they're there to help specific kids. Like even in growing up, like there's some kids in class where it would be like, okay, the teacher will be able to spot this kid is advanced, this kid is thinking a different way.
Mhm.
We're gonna give him this opportunity. This other kid is kind of bad. I don't understand him. He's this, that, this. They're not aware of whatever trauma that kid's going through at home. They just know when he comes to school, he's a badass. So he doesn't get that certain attention. So I feel like there's some things in place to help certain students, but not every student gets that help. It's not like a blanket thing where it's like, hey,
It's not enough.
you're exposed
but
to this.
Not every kid receives the same value from the same form of education or the same form of attention either. I just think beyond that, let's say as a child who's growing up today, there is that strong social thing that is telling kids like, yo, the old format is wrong. And in a certain sense, it is. But I can't tell you how many times I've heard people who want to start something and they are so undereducated about what they want to do, and they have no desire to be educated about it. It's just, hey, I want to make 100 bands right now. That's it. And the way I want to do it is by, I don't know, selling t-shirts. But the desire to learn about their industry, their passion and desires is so extremely low. And I think it's because highlighting education in multiple forms, whether it's trade, formal, college, high school, whatever it is, it's so low that most people just feel like it's valueless. And it's not 100% true. Even if you're an entrepreneur, learning how to be a good entrepreneur is more valuable to me than just going out and starting a business.
But that's interesting to say. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But it's like, you gotta think about the people in these circumstances though. I think a lot of them, they just either aren't natural self-starters or jump starters, or they just like their natural way of learning is having somebody guide them. Who's there to guide these people who can't catch on? 'Cause I feel like, for example, this kid's like,
but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying for the people who have that opportunity, they are not interested in learning.
I don't think so. I think that opportunity is just not catered in a way for them to grasp it. So I feel like, for example, like some people could be like, yo, I just learned everything on YouTube. I'm good to go X, Y, and Z. Some people are just like, yo, I want to do this, but I want the money now, of course. But they don't even know where to start. And there's nobody to go, yo, check this out, do this, do that. I think when some people get that, they will advance. I don't think there's people who's like just gonna see an opportunity and then squander it away because they don't want to learn. That's like saying our people don't want to learn or they're not motivated to learn.
Not necessarily, but I think there's a social aspect to saying that learning sucks. Learning is dumb.
I don't think so, because if you think about it, like look at the way, if they really, let's say they get into the drugs, drug shit or whatever, they learn that quick. Like if you look at 50 or something, he'll say like a lot of the things he learned in the business of dealing drugs, he's applying to his career right now. These people, I'm not even gonna say these people, like the people in those situations, it's not that they don't want to learn. It's either that like the material isn't like appealing to them in that sense, or they just don't have like help learning. It's like being thrown in the water and saying figure it out. So I feel like when some of them have guidance, they pick up quick. And if it's in a way that like, it goes back to also what you were saying too with the school thing. School's outdated. Like they haven't, like I feel like the schools are teaching and like stuff from like 1970s, 1960s. School hasn't really adapted to the way time is.
That's not 100% true though, because as we were talking about off mic yesterday, that school teaches things totally different than even when we went to school.
No. Like they revamped the the methods for these math problems,
Mhm.
but math is math. Like math is a totally different thing from school, I think, because this is like a science.
Mhm.
But like school itself,
Mhm.
everything. If you go back to school today, it's like nothing really changed. Like they're still learning about the same, like we said before, the same Black history figures, the same six, the same white, Thomas Edison, blah blah blah, Christopher Columbus, the same.
I'ma
There's
tell
no
you-
taxes. There's no doing this. It's not caught up with the time now.
I'm gonna tell you something that I realized when I went to high school. I realized I was rather privileged. In my high school, I learned about finances. I learned about how to build wealth before retirement. I learned how to do my taxes. I learned home economics. I learned how to cook. I learned how to do all this stuff that people say high school never teaches. Right?
Does your high school still have those programs now?
Yeah, definitely. It's probably even better than what it was when I was there. And I'm from Florida. I'm from Jeb Bush 49th and Education.
And I'm from Boston and
Florida.
never had those. That's the
Okay.
weird thing.
Yeah, and
So
I'm from
I'm-
San Diego and went to
Never had that.
You guys didn't have that.
I'm from a finance city.
But even though I had that, people in my high school will say, I never learned this. High school is this, high school is that. But I was there. I was there when they brought in people who are in their 60s to say, hey, this is how you make $1 million by the time you're 60. Do you think that's a lot of money? When I said no, they were like, finally, somebody who gets it. $1 million is not enough to retire on.
Right.
So I had that. And even though I was in that class, everybody from that class still says, I don't know how to do my taxes. I don't know how to do this. So it's not necessarily that. People think there's such a low vibration for truly being educated.
I want to point out two things. I want to highlight something you said is that becoming a drug dealer, understanding that game is easy. It's quick. And a lot of these situations, they may not have the time, the patience, or the privilege of taking time to learn and investing the time into becoming an entrepreneur because they see selling drugs as an easier way to go out. And then to tie into what you said a little bit, I feel like we're not shown enough success of Black entrepreneurs for us to feel like that's possible. Because I know a big thing for me is when I wanted to start my own business, I looked for where I could find successful Black people. And I couldn't find enough, and it wasn't presented. It wasn't there in front of me. All I could see was the success of like Elon Musk or these white people who are successful. And to me, seeing that as, I don't see that as a mentor, as a role model, because that's not me. That's not my skin color. That's not my identity. And so I don't see that as a possibility. So I settle for, well, I guess I'll just get a job at retail because I could never do that because there's something not in me where I can't be that successful. And I think if we're given that opportunity in the schools, because the fact that they taught you that is incredible to me. That's something that I have wished that they have taught us back in school, where all they taught us was, this is how you make food. This is how you budget. You have $2,000 a month and your rent is $500. Subtract that. And it's like, I know how to do math. I need to know how to do my taxes. I need to know finances. I need to know how to invest. What is 401k? I didn't know what 401k was until I was maybe 22 or 23. Mm-hmm. And we're not given those opportunities and being taught that. And again, I do think if we're given role models and success and being taught that in the schools and shown people that we can identify with and we can connect with, that we can be successful, then we don't have to sell drugs. It just takes time to
Question
do
for
that.
you. Do you think there's a stigma in the Black community about being smart?
Not anymore, but I'm gonna get to that one. But like to go off of it, kind of what Todd just said connected to what you said earlier too, in a way. The drug thing, I don't think it's necessarily that it's easy. I think for most of them, because I've seen people learn it different ways. Mm-hmm. Like some people could sit back and watch, ask questions, talk to people, learn it. Some people gotta actually go in there, bump their heads a little bit and do that. I think that's the reason why like the drug thing, that's the closest thing to a fast start for those people who learn that way. It's not necessarily that it's easy. It's more so that, okay, I can do this right now. I can get up. I know this person. I have the resource.
But it's easier than...
The access is easier. Not because like...
Well, yeah.
That's like saying drug dealing is easier than, working a 9 to 5, which is... It's not. Because there's a lot of different tools and tangible things that people don't understand goes into it. Like reading people, understanding people, thinking ahead. So it's like, it's a lot of different things where it's like, not necessarily easy. It's just easier for access to be like, okay, I know this person who can get these things. Mm-hmm. And he already has it. And it's like a low barrier to entry for me, as opposed to like, if I want to go be an entrepreneur, damn, I already missed this much school because shit been going on at home. I couldn't do this. Now I couldn't make the school. I missed this. I'm back in math. Now I got to do a grade 11 over again before I even go be an entrepreneur and learn this class and get this thing, get this license, X, Y, and Z. For their head, it's like, okay, this barrier to entry is so much more as opposed to me hitting this person up who has this right now. So I think not necessarily that it's easy. The access to get it is easier.
Yeah.
So it is that one. And like the thing too, like with education, I don't think education itself changed. Like you learn that stuff in high school, but the method of teaching it and learning it hasn't changed. And like looking at like younger kids, like their minds, I feel like are so much further than ours when we were their age. If that makes sense. Like I look at little 2-3-year-olds who take a tablet and it's second nature to them. For us, it's like we caught on to this later on in life. So if school itself isn't changing, if it's still the same, go in here, sit down for 6 hours, you can run around for 30 minutes to an hour, and you have to sit back here and listen to me talk. That hasn't changed at all. So like, it's not keeping up with the way, the brain is functioning. That's why I think like kids are losing interest in school, where it's like, okay, I don't want to go to school because it's boring. I'm learning this different way. I feel like the way we learn now hasn't caught up to like the education system. It's still the same, sit here for 6 hours, listen to me talk. How? When kids now are raised on like technology, the attention span is so short, you expect them to go sit for 6 hours and listen to some teacher say blah, 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 blah. The teachers aren't even passionate.
To me, that sounds like an excuse.
I mean, to you, it's not an excuse, but that's because you're of this age, not this new demographic.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, to make it in life, you need interpersonal skills. It doesn't matter if everything is worked on the computer or not. Eventually, not that it's you have computer. To talk to people. And but I think...
I'm not saying only computer, though. I'm saying the methods, though. Just the way classes are. They're not interactive themselves. It's kind of like 32 students sit here and do this. I feel like it has to change and be more interactive, be more personal, be more interpersonal.
I think it is changing. It's just not changing fast. Because I know my nieces and nephews, they're learning techniques and what they're done or what they're taught in school has changed. There is a lot more technology involved. There is more interaction, and there is more that they're doing. I think it's also just not only the method, but the subject that they're teaching and what they're teaching their students. Because there's, for example, this was a while ago, but there was a gentleman in a school that was teaching Black boys just how to dress up and how to tie ties.
Right.
And they didn't have father figures in their life, and that was just something specifically that could be done for them. And I think you can't unify the school system, and there are going to be different areas are going to need different sorts of methods and different topics and different information that they're given to the students, and basically giving them methods to succeed. And I think if that's able to be done, then we can cater it to furthering these students in a way that will propel them into success.
And I would piggyback on that real quick to say, I have a cousin who's an elementary school teacher. And when she explained to me the fact that they have tablets in the class, I'm talking about 3rd, 4th grade, they have tablets in the class, they have smart boards, they have all types of things that make me envious, because today these kids are smarter than me. So they do cater to them. I can't just say blanket like, oh, nothing has changed.
Even in college, though? You think college? I feel like college is the same. It's been the same since forever.
I got my MBA online. And to me, it was tech-driven. Like, I even almost did my program with a tech background. And I should have, just knowing today's landscape. But I just think it's rather simple to say like, oh, nothing has changed, when in my head, I think a lot of things have changed. And the form and way that I educated myself by doing an online program was videos, reading. I saw somebody the other day who was just like, who cares about books? Like, there's a movie on it. And it's just like, there's still a lot of information that you're leaving behind when you watch the movie, and you're also forming your opinion based on the opinion of the filmmaker, when in the book you have so much detail that allows your brain to work in a totally different way. So it's like, yeah, you can change, but there are some critical things that just need to stay, like reading. Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Because to tie into what you said, just with technology and everything today, there's so much information at your hands that it can be overwhelming, where it's like you're researching, how do I do this? How do I do that? And you come across 500 different pages that you have to go through. And it's like, I'm not going to do that. Whereas if you're reading a book, you have the information, you have the source there, you're focusing specifically on it. you're not distracted by multiple other pages. If you're reading it and you're like, oh, this person doesn't get me, let me click on another page. And then you start doing that and it's like, well, I don't feel like doing this. I'm going to turn on some Netflix. Whereas like a book, you're sitting there, you're reading. And I think that style has changed a lot where, like you said, I don't know if kids are reading as much as they made us read before. Or
It
if
might
even
be
actually
but that's why there's
form of
there's
reading.
audiobooks though.
and
So,
even
like,
that,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
you have the
But-
technology now where you can search. If we're taking a test on this book tomorrow, I can search, tell me about this book, and I don't even have to read it. I can read a
We've been
synopsis.
had that. That was Spark Notes back then.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
we've been had that. I feel like, I don't know, but I just think, not to dwell on this too much, I just feel like the way just the American system itself, what do you guys, I just look at it as like the way schools are, they're trained to program you to think a certain way. That's why I feel like, I'm not necessarily saying the reading part, the math part, X, Y, and Z is not like up to standard. It's more so like, what are the schools training the minds for now? I think that's the reason why some kids are not even interested in school, because if you think about it, schools programming kids to think a certain way. So some kids don't learn the same way. Some kids need different ways. And I feel like the programming is something that hasn't changed. Not saying they don't teach about taxes, don't teach about this, don't teach about that. It's more sort of the overlying programming of students when they go to schools.
To be honest with you, so that we could just close this out. I think school is a foundational place. I think what you do
Of
with
what?
I think overall school is supposed to give you a well-rounded piece of everything, but I think most of your true character building is done at home. And
Well, I'm not talking about character building.
no, but the reason why I say that is because you can have somebody who's in a class, you can have two children who have the same exact education, and one will turn out to be wildly successful, and the other one will turn out and say, well, school didn't teach me this, or school didn't teach me that. And I think the difference would be because one child went home and their parents told them the tools that you're learning at school, use it for X, Y, and Z, where the other one may not have the same family unit, which is why family, and the unit of family is so important, and what your parents desire for you is as important as well.
So you feel schools just give you information and then go home and digest it?
Yeah, especially earlier on, like from K through 12, everybody gets the same information, but why is it when you go to college, everybody decides that they want to do something different? So I just think like overall, it's not, I think criminalizing school and saying like, oh, they don't teach you and they don't set you up for all this stuff. Like for the most part, what you do after school, everybody chooses their path, so everybody chooses something else that they want to do. So I think you can choose what you want to do with the education that you receive.
I think we're talking about two different things though. I think I'm not talking about more so about what they're having you memorize or like learn to forget later. I'm talking about more so I think school they should train like the way your mind works
for the world.
Not more useful for the world, but like school should be where like your mind is being like developed and expand, not just to regurgitate and memorize things.
Yeah.
It's like school should be like, it's like how do you actually use your mind? Not just sit here and memorize this and take a test and then forget about it next year. School should be developing the mind and be like, yo, how do you like, let's fucking expand your mind and make it work differently and like actually learn, not memorize, actually learn and like explore things.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not what happens in schools.
I'm going to send you something off of this, but I saw somebody had posted something like, another day I haven't used algebra, like it's a meme or something like that. And there was actually a clip of a psychiatrist who explains that the way that you learn about algebra, you use it literally every single day of your life. But because it's not outwardly in front of your face to show like, I'm going to use algebra now to solve this problem, you think like, oh, I don't use this, but it's like a proven system that the way you learn in school, you may have thought like, oh, I don't need this anymore and I never use it, but you use it abundantly in life. I'm going to have to send that to you if I could find it again. But I just think like maybe the way we see it, maybe at a certain level, but if we were able to sit different in a different position, we would be like, oh, I didn't know that the way that,
Right.
I
mean, we can get off the, but I want to ask y'all, like, have you ever had classes with international students, like students from Asia, Africa, Haiti?
I have.
They think different because of the school system they're in. So I'm just saying, like, more so that, not necessarily like oh, we don't use this, we don't need this. I'm just saying
Yeah.
the way the mind works, period. Like the way when you look at something and approach it. So I learned that like talking to kids from Asia and like even one kid from Haiti, I'm looking at them like they're all flying in on the math thing, passing everybody else.
Sure.
And I'm like, how the hell do you know this? And they do it a totally different way.
Yeah.
So that means like their logic and their like the way the brain like digested something is completely different because we were trained in we were programmed differently here in America compared to the way they're programmed to think in like Haiti or
So
Asia,
do you think
certain parts of
overall
Asia.
our system is wrong?
I think there's some parts of it that needs to be different.
Needs to be improved.
Because like, yeah, just look at. I mean, I don't know. You could just see like the way America is ran. Like, what's our like? We export a lot of things. Like they're saying Trump is trying to bring that back, but America exports pretty much everything. Like, what do we produce and give to the world? Like, say it again.
Sweat.
What you mean?
They say that one time I did a research to find out what's the biggest biggest financial income of England at one point in time, and it was rock and roll.
Right.
And some people say for America, it's sweat, sports,
entertainment,
and things like that.
That's what it is.
Which I don't think is necessarily the worst thing in the world because it makes money, but
it's not that tangible though.
It's creating like a false dream for people where it's being discovered or becoming famous or getting drafted into the NFL, and that's especially in the lower income areas, and as a whole the school system is completely screwed. But I also think that it's even more screwed in the lower privileged areas, and it's almost setting a lot of the people in the lower privileged areas up for failure because it's not giving them that knowledge to be able to get out of that, where it's just showing that again we're driven off of the entertainment industry, and a lot of people feel like that's the only, which is a slim chance of getting into.
See, but to me, I don't think about it like I have to be LeBron. In my mind, when we talk about entertainment industry, what's LeBron's manager's name?
I don't even know. Hold on, I'm gonna search it up.
He's wildly successful, and there's another guy who works on his team. But for the most part, when I think about entertainment, I think about like vessels of people who maybe one person is the one that you see on TV who's doing the dancing, the singing, and all that stuff. But they're being held by people who are extremely intelligent. You know,
they think differently though. That's the thing.
They think differently, yes. But I even want to just think about like Uber, right? Like one of Uber's first acquisitions when they were done with their funding round, they hired like an astrophysicist. You would wonder like, why would Uber need an astrophysicist? But that was one of their first things that they sought after. And for me, that's where my mind goes when it's like, oh, you can only just bounce the ball or run or dance or sing. But to me, it's like it takes incredible marketing minds and like very intelligent people who build a team around this person who, yes, they've branded that. And you, the audience, may see like, oh, there goes Beyonce again. But there's like hundreds of people who are behind her that are making a lot of money, you know? So I don't know.
That's what you were saying is that people don't know that.
Yeah.
And other school systems are teaching them to think differently, where we're not taught to think that way. And it's great that you do. Yeah. But I'm sure that wasn't something that just happened overnight. And it's the way
I guess we just have to
works.
continue pushing that on our people.
I think it's changing.
And it needs to be accepted as well. You know, it needs to be accepted.
Yeah. Quickly to answer the other question, I don't think it's dumb to be. I don't think people make fun of people being smart as they did before. I think now it's like people want to be smart because a lot of the youth are switching from like, I guess, different crimes to selling drugs. They're going, yo, why would I sell drugs when you get less time and it's less risk for scamming? So a lot of them are no lie, but a lot of them, that is driving a lot of them to be to think tech forward. So like it sounds kind of funny, but I think the next generation kind of is like it's slowly moving away. It takes time to say it again.
A different form of criminals.
A different form of criminals, but it's actually expanding their mind into the tech world because to do that you need to have some kind of like tech knowledge, and they're starting off young to being like 13, 14, knowing about how to get X, Y, and Z, how to get Bitcoin, how to do this. So I think like it's just changing, but it's just taking time.
Yeah, sure.
And for some positivity though, this is one thing like we didn't hear a lot of hype about compared to when Cap and Jay were going back and forth. But Jay-Z's NFL deal is planning to reinvest $100 million into criminal justice reform over the next 10 years through the Inspired Change program, which is pretty cool. But it's interesting that like it didn't get as much hype as the Kaepernick and Jay thing. And that kind of feeds into our last convo. Like we see Jay-Z, you know, partner up with the NFL. When he first did it, so much backlash. People had things to say, but this is not getting a lot of coverage. Why do you guys think that is?
Did you watch the Super Bowl?
I did.
Okay, there was a commercial of a football player. I don't remember his name, but he partners with the NFL to do just that. And it was a commercial that played during the Super Bowl. If anybody who's listening can tell me who that was.
What do you look like? I forgot what commercial.
Blackout dreads.
Was it Marshawn Lynch?
No, it was just some football player.
Was it
I don't
Richard
remember his
Sherman?
name. He wasn't like a superstar. He was just a dude who he's partnering with the NFL to you know, to provide change in lower income neighborhoods and things like that, and criminal justice reform and things like that. And when I watched it, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what everybody on Twitter has to say about this. And it just went, phew, nobody cared. And I think it's all about narratives. The NFL right now is the big evil bad guy. You know, they don't want you kneeling at the game. They don't want you really talking about that kind of stuff during the game. And I get it. It's for business purposes because it drives people away from what they're selling, football. You know, at the end of the day, most people watch entertainment, football, basketball, baseball to get away from the things that bother them every day. So to bring that into their business and make it this polarizing experience, I get it. But the NFL is being seen as bad because people are boycotting the NFL. We don't want to watch a game. You don't let Colin Kaepernick play, blah, blah, blah. So to say, hey, Jay-Z is working with the NFL, aka the enemy, to help change things, people are already set in their ways of saying, yo, the NFL is trash. I don't want to support them, and I don't want to support whatever it is that Jay-Z is doing. So what's better, the truth or the lie? If the lie is more entertaining.
That's a sad thing. But that's sad.
That was well put.
That's well put, but it's sad to think about when it's something positive. Like we just spoke about all these different issues, and then it's something like.
But look what I
that's
just
what's crazy.
said.
Yeah,
it's
like,
hard for people to accept help. They don't want it. So
they don't want help.
They don't want it. If it's coming from a certain group or a certain person, and they've already made up their mind that it's not good, they don't want it. So,
but why isn't the media just pushing this though? Not just the people. Why isn't it just a message that's hyped around?
Because everything is based on numbers. So if this goes around that Jay-Z and the NFL are spending how much?
$100 million.
$100 million to help people and, you know, to change criminal reform or anything like that.
Right. It's education, economic advancement, police and community relations, and criminal justice reform.
There you go. So he's spending $100 million like that to help people out. And then they do put it out, and then it doesn't do numbers. The news goes, meh. Because the news is not about the news. It's about engagement. How many people are talking about this? How many people are sharing this, clicking this? Are the numbers growing? So if the numbers are not growing because we don't care about it, then moving on. And it's just
but that's crazy.
It's crazy, but it's the truth.
That's crazy, man. But it's the truth. Well, why? Well, why is it like what? I don't know, man. I think
because we're being oppressed.
I mean, it's that, but like I don't know, man. Just because that's true. Like, yeah, numbers aren't like there. Some things should just be like, yeah, who cares? Let's just continue informing people. I think some people just aren't even informed. They're probably just like, oh, whatever. They don't even know about it.
I'm telling you, it's like.
I do know it's a numbers game. It's like it clicks in or whatever, but yeah, it's crazy.
But as much as we want, like, there's a certain point where we're set in our ways. We don't want it. We don't want it. Like, fine.
So, what do you think is the way then, like, to help or to
you know what would have made a big impact if Jay-Z got in a car, went to Marcy Park, and literally handed people out money. That would have went viral. But to say that we're doing all these things with buzzwords and keywords like reform and oppression, things that people don't necessarily feel every day, you know. Okay.
People do feel it though.
But reform, like it's not something that people generally feel. Like compared to Kim Kardashian, who like, hey, we took this person with a name and a face and we took them out of jail. Mm-hmm. People are gonna go, yo, run that up because there's a name and a person. But what you just said is a bunch of buzzwords and keywords. So it's like, okay, we don't exactly know what that means.
I think it goes hand in hand with like what Meek is doing though. Like,
but what is Meek doing?
So like when he gets out of jail, like he's putting out like, let's say for example, he's speaking on the things that happened that why, like I'm not even gonna say white America, but a lot of America doesn't, because I feel like what you're saying is definitely valid, but also I feel like it comes from a place, I could be wrong, where you're not aware of those, like those things aren't close to you. So it seems like it's like, it's buzzwords, but there's some people who are like, no, my
That's
brother's
the
in
thing.
jail.
It's
This
such
is this.
it's a small thing where like
I mean,
you're talking about why it's not going viral.
No,
why
no,
it's not why it's
like,
not
not-
being
not-
openly accepted.
not viral, openly accepted, but why isn't this being like talked about on at least an effort to put in everybody's face, regardless of if it goes viral or if it does numbers? Just
Because
continually.
the people that you were talking about who have those brothers in jail, those brothers are still in jail.
Right.
So many people are saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And they don't feel.
But it's a process though, because like they're trying to change laws, not necessarily be like, yo, I'm going. For example, with Kim Kardashian saying, I'm gonna go get this person out, go get this. She's not getting hundreds of people out at a time.
Sure.
It's a slow process.
Understood.
They're trying to change laws and also like change perception. So I think that's why like it might not be immediate, but part of why it's not immediate is because a lot of people are in their bubbles, so they don't even acknowledge it. They go, those are buzzwords for small groups of people. But in reality, look at how many black people are locked up.
Sure.
So it's like it's actually impacting a large group of people. But I feel like there's just no push to educate people on what these words mean and what's going on. It's more so like, okay, we have this in place, but there's nothing like there's no push from people, individuals, or like organizations to go, yo, learn about this. This is actually what this means. Same thing with laws. Like a lot of black people like will complain about shit, but they're not putting up to the townhouse meetings. They're not putting up to the city. You know, they're not voting and participating in the city's. Like it's the worst in my mind right now. But they're not participating in like the whole the judicial or the lawmaking of that city.
But
So
that goes
people are
back
just
to
not
the
informed
society
about
that
it.
we're in right now. If you really feel like I'm suffering today, right now, to change laws and to do this and to do that, even think about like the LGBTQ community. To get same-sex marriage, how long did that take? You know what I'm saying? And so if it's not happening,
But it
right
unified
now,
people though.
yeah, sure, but it unified people after a 30-year thing, and people don't have
What do you
that
mean?
time. A 30-year stint of fighting for what they believe is right. So when you're saying these things, it's like, yeah, that's fine and all, and to change the law, that's gonna help the next generation. But my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad is in jail right now. If Meek has
But
been
but
listen,
those can help right now though.
it can, but it helps such few people that doesn't get highlighted. And if they do, so few people care that it's like, that's why it's not being, it's
I
not.
don't know.
You know,
I look
being
at it like
spoken
as the
about.
cannabis thing. I feel like the cannabis thing, if you were thinking about the same way, it didn't take 30 plus some years. I
It
think
took 100 plus something.
no, I'm talking about like letting, because there's been a big thing about how come black people were penalized and arrested at higher rates than white people for cannabis, and they're legalizing it now, making profit. I forgot what state it was, but they let out everybody who had those prior offenses. So that didn't take 30 years. That took people going, yo, this is the issue right now that needs to be fixed.
That took 30 years.
No, it took 30 years for like cannabis as a whole to be legalized.
Yeah.
But the process of going, hey, let these black people who were penalized out,
Yeah.
that didn't take 30 years.
But I'm saying, how long were they in jail for? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like,
but
if
facts, but I'm talking about like after it became legal and like
Sure.
to be sold. I think that's a different conversation as opposed to how long they were held. Period.
Yeah, all I'm saying is, in the moment of my brother's in jail right now for selling weed, it's not about can we get him out in 5 years. It's can we get him out right now. Everything is microwavable. That's our society.
but
So that's
Either
why
that
it's not.
or I think people actually want to see signs of progress. I
Yeah.
think the difference is like some people, I don't think everybody's like, I need $1 million right now. They just low key, I think people just want to see like things changing. Like, because some people, they've been stagnant for so long, wanting help, demanding this, demanding that, and there's nothing happening. Where it's like, if you give them a little something like, oh, it moved a little bit, that pacifies people. And we see the government play it now.
Yeah.
Like just to end a protest or a riot, they go, okay, hey, we just did this, even though it don't mean shit, it'll pacify you for now. People
you
just want to
think
see
that-
change.
With Jay-Z doing this, with that, like that guy I told you about who did the commercial, like Meek Mill, all these people who are fighting for criminal reform, justice reform, do you think that after so many examples of people who are quote unquote trying or fighting for, do people feel change?
Rephrase that?
Do you feel like after all the information that we're getting, $100 million here, $1 billion there, Kim Kardashian doing this, do you feel like people actually feel like change is happening, change is coming?
I don't think so.
That's why.
But wait, but why do you think that is though? Why do you think that feeling is missing?
Because I feel like
'Cause
maybe the process is going too slow,
think
or
most people-
maybe we
but-
praise the attempts and not the wins.
I think if anything, people just like most people don't even know this is happening, so there's nothing to like follow up or uphold. So I think like for those people, like for example, like it might not immediately impact us, but it might be changing some people. I think we just can't speak on it from like a narrow-minded thing where it's like
Sure,
it's not
we
changing for
can't.
us.
We
but
can't,
there's-
but yeah.
I think there's that, and it's also a lot of people don't even know about it, don't even know what's going on.
But okay, let's say
I'm not saying this. I'm not saying it's like a. I haven't dove into it, so I don't. I can't say it's like this magical thing that's gonna fix X, Y, and Z.
So there you go.
But-
right. So
But the fact that something is being helped, or like at least the idea of it, like the idea of being like, yo,
no
help
problem. So right now we just told 100,000 people, yo, Jay-Z and the NFL are partnering together to do criminal justice reform, all this stuff, all these words that keep floating around. Now what?
Look into it.
Look
See
into what?
see exactly how they're doing it. See exactly what does that mean. People not even hearing about it. You don't know what direction to go look for. You don't know what to study about it. But if you hear about it, you can go, you know what? What does that even mean? There's these buzzwords. Let me see if Jay-Z's fluke, like if it's just a flake, it's just for like pop shit, or if it's actually something that's gonna change.
But how do you motivate people to do that? though?
Exactly.
What do you mean?
Because
How
it's
do you
not
motivate
personal
people
to them.
want to look into it more? Because if I
I don't have the answer for that. I don't have the answer for that.
Heard that, and I'm like, cool.
But I don't have the
I'm
answer
not-
for that.
Yeah,
But
and
I
not
feel like
driven
we've
to
been
like look
driven-
it up.
Yeah, I feel like every other month we hear about this. Hey, Meek Mill is doing this. This was, and then it's like, well, after a while, we don't see very much.
Yeah.
Even
But-
if it's
but
legislative.
we don't follow up with it. How would we see if we don't follow up with it?
Because situations are not changing. That's the point. If you're talking about I'm outside of it, let's say somebody who does have family members in jail, in prison, who are this and that, and they're not getting out, and they're even working with lawyers and all this stuff, and those situations are not changing. To them, it's just like, that's cool what you're doing over there. But in my situation, you have to remember, we all live a selfish life.
So then, but by that logic, what's the point of doing anything? Then, like, what's the correct way to do it?
Because I think we have to stop. We have to stop necessarily the praise. Like, okay, good. Jay-Z and the NFL are doing this, right on. Give me beyond that headline of that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Just tell me, yo, what are the actionable acts that you are doing? Because when you give me those words, I immediately just let them fly over my head. Just like,
But
okay, cool.
that's a you thing though. I
Yeah,
think-
but that's an
But I think
everybody
that's
thing.
it's a words versus action. Like, what can I physically see and feel?
so, but
Those
all
things
right,
don't get reported.
What's a
Right.
good example of things that are like physical action that like drive change?
Well, I'll tell you
Not
what.
just in this space, but like what's like instead of just right now, I think it's like, all right, it just leaves it in a way that's like, okay, it's hopeless. What's a way that's actionable that you guys seen that like
You know
drives
that new
change?
show For Life by 50
Yeah.
Cent? Okay, so that guy was in prison, and not only did he become a lawyer in prison and fought for his own case and fought for the cases of other members, of the other people who were in prison with him. The show comes after the act. The praise comes after the act. For right now, it's just like Jay-Z buzzword, reform buzzword.
But
And
it
it's
just started, though.
Word, that's what's up. But we keep hearing about it, and because situations have not changed, it's been at least 5 years of we're fighting for reform, and it's like,
wait, but that's kind of dangerous because Jay-Z has not been doing this for 5
not
years.
Jay-Z.
This report just came out like a week ago.
Not Jay-Z. I'm saying overall, I think there's this overstimulation of information of what we are about to do, and so few people receive tangible things that help them on a day-to-day basis that they just lose hope. So after a while, it's just like, yo, look, okay, you've made your announcement that that's what you want to do. Tell me when you're going to speak in front of Congress. Tell me when you're going to back a president who's going to help your thing. Tell me your agenda. Like there's so much of the headlines of this is what we're about to do that I think it makes people lose hope because their situations do not change.
I don't know. I mean, I definitely agree with that. I agree with that. I just think people should like, if this news just came out like last week, I think the least thing that could happen is put it in front of people and then encourage people to look into it to be like, okay, what are these tangible things that you're speaking of, to make sure these are not just buzzwords. So I don't know if this just came out a week ago. I'm not quick to just be like throw it on the bus. I'm just confused on why. Like, again, I'm not confused. I know the answer, but like when him and Cap are going against each other, that's everywhere. But with this, even though it's just an announcement, it's nowhere. That's the main thing where it's like, okay,
It's entertainment, though.
Yeah.
I guess people don't really want help, man.
But I think, like you're saying, it's just a matter of we need more people covering it. We need more people talking about it. We need it to be spread throughout, but people aren't going to cover it until there's something that can give us hope or something that can be actionable.
Until there's a face in the name. Until they Kim Kardashian it, unfortunately. Until they say, yo, by our works, by our thing, 100 people have been released from jail. 100 situations have changed. But because there's so few situations that have changed, it's just like, dope. We applauded you when you made the effort, but when you shot the ball, it didn't go in. It didn't affect us. So it's
news,
like, all
or
right.
even like a figure like Jay-Z, talk about it. Like have a press conference and talk about it. Let me physically see you say you're working on this and this is what you do. You're doing X, Y, and Z. These are the steps you're going to take. This is your agenda. This is what you're doing. But as a news report, I'm not going to sit there and read it. And I just see words. I'm not seeing a person attached to it.
I mean, before I confirm it, I definitely want to go I'm going to look and see if there's anything that he's actually doing. Because I haven't dove that deep into it. It's more so being like, what the hell? Like, this hasn't even been spoken about.
I haven't even heard of it. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
But shit. To move to a lighter note, though, shout out to Kenan Thompson. He was slated. He's slated to be the White House, to do the White House Correspondents' Dinner, to host it.
What?
Yeah, wow. Kenan Thompson. He's moving up, man.
Dang. What did it take him 30 years?
He's been grinding. Wait, you don't tell me you got some petty shit about Kenan, man. He's a beloved character. A beloved person, actually, not character, person.
I like that. You know what? Look, man, I never did a White House correspondent. So I ain't
you got nothing nice to say about Kenan?
No, I dig the hustle. I'm just messing.
I
dig the hustle. Like, okay. I was there back there and all that.
Do you think they're going to Chrisette Michelle?
What you mean?
Remember when she performed for Trump? Did she?
No, I don't think so. No? I don't think so. Okay. I think that was different, though. I don't know. I hope not, man. Like, let him live.
That's what's up, though. I like to see that. I like to hear that.
Yeah. Shout out to Kenan.
It's for comedians, man. Like, it's a good space for him. I hope he doesn't get judged or crucified for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He said they might Chrisette Michelle him. I don't know. I hope not. Shout out to Netflix as well. What
Netflix do?
Netflix. I mean, they have a ton of black content on there.
Oh. Raising Dion.
People don't see. Oh Lord. I mean, I think that's good because this is not gonna be the pettiest episode. Like some episode we're gonna have that serious. I think this was kind of serious. So I do kind of like that. Raising Dion it's commendable. I respect Michael B. Jordan and his works.
I respect it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little bit better.
That's nice you guys respect it.
But Netflix got a whole. Oh man,
cast.
Give Michael B.
I didn't
respect,
say anything. Man. In fact, he just
wanted you guys. You said
that's
you guys.
Dope. That's dope. I'm part of it. I'm glad he actually just won an NAACP award for his work in Just Mercy.
I see.
Wait, but what's shout out for Netflix?
Oh, shout because all right. They've been putting out a bunch of dope black documentaries.
Oh, yeah.
And one of them, the newest edition is Black in Space, which is a documentary that looks at African American achievements in space and how
Damn.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. And we just spoke about Katherine earlier. Mm-hmm. So I think it's dope that Netflix is, if you think about it, this new generation is growing up with Netflix is one of the biggest streaming platforms, right? They're including these black documentaries to inform this next generation in an easier way than we had. Now they can just go on Netflix and look at this documentary and go, wow, I never knew about this whole world. Mm-hmm. So I think it's in a way it's introducing a new black generation into thinking differently, thinking outside the box. And it's at the ease of your fingertips. I remember before the only way I would watch documentaries in school, if it was science and then they put a documentary on, then we'll watch it. Now you can watch it at home. Mm-hmm. And I spoke to my little sister yesterday, and she's saying her favorite documentaries are the deep blue ones where they look at the animals.
Yeah.
So I know for sure kids are exploring Netflix, and if it's young black kids who end up looking at this Black in Space documentary, it might inspire a new wave of Neil deGrasse Tyson's.
Yeah.
Some new kids who are interested in space, interested in that world. So I don't know. That's why I think Netflix is dope, especially what they do is starring black lead. Mm-hmm. I think they have I'm not gonna question whether it's legit or if it's a money play, but they're really tapping into the black community because every week they put out a new throwback too. Mm-hmm. They might have Love Jones on there. They might have fucking a bunch of classics. Mm-hmm. So I think they're really ringing in the black community in a way that other streaming platforms are not.
I don't want to make it sound negative, but I think the best thing about Netflix is desperation to stay relevant and taking on so many projects where, they can be hit or miss, but because they are taking on so many projects, you can have a lot more representation. You can have a lot more of those documentaries come out, a lot more films and TV shows that do have black leads in them. And because that content, they need more of that content. They're
Facts.
taking anything that they can take, which is also putting out that information for people to see and for people to have a connection to. So I think that is good, and it's something that should definitely just be recognized that they have that out there.
And even if they are doing that, it's not just in the form of entertainment. They're
Yeah.
educating.
Mhm.
Like the Malcolm X documentary, the one with the black directors, I forgot what it is. And even this one. So I think like, I don't know, they're not just giving you like, oh, here, look at this black movie. They're like,
Right,
oh, look
yeah.
at these black
And
figures who
there
are.
is some quality in there.
Yeah.
Dope.
Anything you want to add about it, or?
Oh, that's dope.
All right, cool,
like
cool.
that.
We do got to wrap this up a little quickly though. But this question kind of specifically, I thought about asking Kelby this when I first read it. You guys know who Lark Voorhies is, right?
Mm-hmm.
From
Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell. She recently shared her struggles with mental health,
Mhm.
and like she's like schizophrenic.
Yeah.
And she says like that kind of, it feels like, well, she feels like that's the reason why she's been excluded from the reboot and also the meetups that the cast have.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, there's a Saved by the Bell reboot that's coming. But
Right.
every other cast
And she's
member
not in it.
minus her and
And
Screech.
She's the only black.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's not even in it. The reboot. So she was saying that, and I was also watching Charlamagne interview on Pete Davidson, and Pete Davidson was also saying like he's a he's a huge liability for movie sets because before they meet him, they hear all these things in the tabloids,
Mhm.
and he's also open about his mental health. So he feels like before they meet him, it's tough for him to get on movie sets because he's a liability. But after they meet him, they love him. So I wanted to say, like, I was asking Kelby yesterday about SAG, right? It's unionized. Is there help for people who go through these mental health issues? Because I know when you're an actor, like, well, I don't know firsthand, but I'm assuming that, like, especially when you're method acting, that has to play on your psyche in some way because it's low-key remnants of, like, schizophrenia in a way because you have to be somebody else. You have to adopt a different character or adopt a whole different mind frame. So, like, is there any mental health help for actors or people in the entertainment industry? Even if it, like, especially if you're unionized, like if you're under SAG or something.
Well, if you're a part of SAG, you have if you're at that level where you can get healthcare, the packages that come with SAG are very good. I will say this, like, there's like a misconception of films and working in films that like you're gonna do all these roles that really mess with your mind
Right.
and things like that. No,
Not every role is going to be the Joker.
look,
No, not every role, but
0.3% of actors do those roles.
Right.
Most actors are really booking roles and playing themselves.
Mhm.
You know, they play themselves and they dress up as something else, and it's you know it's not it's not such a ginormous switch, you know, because I have plenty of working actor friends who work 6-7 days a week, and you know they're on different shows and they're on different movies and things like that, but they're not stars and they're not leading movies, so they're able to jump from character to character because it's not this huge thing. You know, typically in Hollywood, you're cast based off your looks. You know, that's maybe 60% of it, and then the rest, talent is a very small portion of it. You know, it helps a lot, but for the most part, your size and your looks and how you work with your other castmates and chemistry and whatnot is pretty much how you book the role. So I will say, you know, the mental health aspect that comes into working in film most likely comes from outside of the industry, of actors being extremely vulnerable, people who desire ultimate attention by going on a million auditions and never booking. You know, being on a set is one of the most magical experiences of anybody's life if they ever get a chance to be on one. So I would say that the mental health aspect will come from your desire of working in the industry and not achieving. So, but I will say, if you are SAG and you do have healthcare, there are great packages, and you should be able to find somebody who can give you therapeutic help.
I think the worst part too is that they didn't even reach out to her. I feel like that is kind of just disregarding it before even giving her a chance to be able to do that, or talking with her and like working with her and seeing if it would be possible versus just, no, we're not going to have her back, and just making that decision.
Hey man, you know, at the end of the day, just because we see them on the screen, it doesn't mean that they're the executives. You know, it's not her show. She got cast in it. She was, you know, invited into somebody else's somebody else's world. And though she was not invited, and it is, rude or even perceived as rude, I get it. It's somebody else's financial investment. And if they feel like, hey, I'm not going to make my money back if she's on the show, fine, whatever. That just pushes you more. I was just hearing Neil Long just talking about producing and being on the other side of the camera. It just gives you more of an incentive to say, you are not the creation of somebody else's will. If you don't want me back on the show, fine, do your show. You can always open your own door. There's always opportunity. There's no lack of money or opportunity in Hollywood. If you want it, you can do it. I didn't understand necessarily that she didn't get invited back because of her schizophrenia. I thought it was because of her appearance. Do you know about that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was because of that. So, and then I was like, okay, I guess I can see that. But the schizophrenia part makes me wonder a little bit. But hey, she's not the only one. Robert Downey Jr. used to be a liability for much worse reasons, you know. So hey, it is what it is.
Oh, shit. Only Kelvin could get like that look into the media world in a different perspective, because that is interesting. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to like it's not the shout out, but it's like on this day. Shout out to Muhammed Ali. On February 25th, I think 1985, he beat Sonny Liston.
Damn.
Do you guys follow boxing, or do you guys know like boxing, or like
nope.
that like a?
I know Rocky.
He's like, damn.
He
said Rocky. You know Muhammad Ali though.
Of course.
Okay, I was about to say, oh, gee, Louise.
Okay.
Yeah, but he became world heavyweight boxing champion, and I think a lot of that did have to tie into race relations, because I believe Sonny Liston was white, and a lot of people were going for the white person. And so like I don't know. That also ties into recently too, Deontay Wilder fighting Tyson Fury. That was like a whole race thing as well. Wow. So it's interesting how they always tie that storyline to boxing. Yeah. Do you guys have any shout outs? We're gonna wrap this up. So before we ease out, any shout outs or anything?
I have one shout out. One of my really good friends.
Wait. Sonny Liston is not white.
He's not white. Then my bad. My bad for the confusion. Who was the white person that he fought like way back? It was like a whole. It was like a lot of tension. Like it was like a lot of tension between like him being the black guy and the other guy being the white. I forgot what his name was.
We'd have to look it up.
My bad.
I know Sonny Liston, and I was like, I don't personally know him, but
nah, my bad. My history is off. But go ahead though. You about to shout somebody out?
Yeah. So I was gonna shout out my friend. She's a songwriter and she's a musician, and she's fantastic and phenomenal. And she's
doing promos already.
No, well, this is my shout out. She is a strong black woman, and she's doing her thing, and she's writing songs for different types of artists, and she's just out there doing work, and she's putting out her own stuff, and she's really putting herself out there. And you guys should check her out and follow her on Instagram. It's Ren Nicole, and that's RYN.Nicole. Just go on Instagram, check her out, listen to her music.
Ren real quick.
I think it was Jürgen Blinn, somebody. But that's the German boxer. My bad. I'm gonna have to find it and give it next episode.
Were you talking about Rocky, the movie?
No, not Rocky. Not Rocky. No. No.
Oh, it was Creed.
Creed? No. Man, wait. If you guys know Muhammad Ali, I forgot what fight it was though. It was a lot of racial tension.
Yeah, that's my girl.
Ren.
Yeah.
She should have never showed Kelby. I know he's a dog. You know Kelby's a dog.
Yo, take it easy.
Kelby's a dog, man.
Did you get the Erykah Badu?
That's a part I skipped because we got rapping kind of early, but like I'm mad because the instances are still sold out. They sold out 19 minutes after they first came out.
Damn.
They put out 100 more and it's still sold out. So I'm mad at all these people. I'm not even going, man.
You're gonna be walking down the street and get called to someone's room and be like, "Hold up, is that Erykah?"
No, real quick.
What am I doing here?
I want my own.
How'd I get here?
I want my own pack instance. They're kind of expensive, so I don't know. I got to think twice now. It's $50 for a pack of 25, I think.
Oh no, we good.
That's like $2 an instance. I did the math. I was like, I don't know if I want to pay $2 just to.
You could probably find a knockoff at the dollar store.
No. I'm gonna need a real thing. If I do get them,
you don't want to knock
if
off.
I do get it,
armpits.
If I do get it, I'm gonna treat it like good cologne. I'm gonna only use it sometimes. Like, all right, I set the mood. I'm gonna light this $2 candle.
If you got the 9 over,
there you go. See, exactly. If you got the 9, if it's after the linguine date, after the linguine date.
If you do the linguine, she get 2 cents of the incense.
$4. You're gonna spend $4 if you do the math. $50 for 25. Yeah. You're spending $2 an instant. So you're gonna burn 2 instants after the linguine date.
Hey man,
you better burn half of one and then burn.
Yeah, I'm burning half of one. That's what I'm doing.
Man, you guys don't respect queens, man. Come on, man.
That's $2, and you're burning $2 every time.
Hey man, love is love.
It's not a waste.
I guess you're right, man. I'm kind of stingy. Any shout outs you want to give or anything, or anybody you want to highlight?
This is the last one of Black History Month.
That's right.
Shoot, I'm gonna shout myself out.
Okay, then that's respectable.
Yeah, you got to, man. You know, I always talk about creating an opportunity for yourself, and I'm not gonna shout myself out necessarily about creating an opportunity for myself, but I will shout myself out to say if you need anybody who has done a few things in the entertainment industry, you can always come to me. That's why I'm shouting myself out. I want to be a help to people who are serious about what they do, serious about the art. And I say serious because though it is a business to me, it's still an art. It's something I am passionate about. And if you are too, then you can always come to me and ask me any questions that you want, from building budgets to how to choose people to be on your team, anything like that, you can always come to me.
Yep, Kelby's my mentor.
I respect it, man. Dang, you know, it was definitely a lot of pressure when you said it's the last one that Black History Month. So now I'm like, yo, how the hell, like, who the hell do you? But then again, every month is Black History Month.
Man, you know,
That's
you're
right.
making history.
I mean, it's that.
Every month is Black History.
Every month
me
is
and Ren.
Black.
Is it Ren?
Yeah.
Ren.
Black History Year.
Man, I don't know, man.
Black History.
Black History
Decade.
Every
Black
day.
History
So,
life.
Come on,
every
man.
day. I'm gonna take that pressure off though. But I don't want to be super cliche about it. But every week I do want to do what Todd does and like give somebody who's like not famous or not popular like a shout out for what they're doing. But I have to, not only because yesterday it was Kobe's, farewell.
Yeah.
So I think I want to give a shout out to him and like
That's
I don't know,
right.
it's just crazy. Like seeing the internet's low key traumatizing because I go on Twitter, you just keep seeing him and his daughter, like all these beautiful moments that they're having.
Well, Los Angeles is traumatizing.
I mean, for
Billboards,
sure.
they're on buses.
It's that, but it's just more so like seeing the visuals of him and his daughter. Like when
Yeah.
she's a baby, she's kissing him, he's holding her, and now you see when she's like 7, 8, and now you see it when he's coaching her on the court. So just seeing that, like seeing him, I don't know, it's just weird. It's crazy to see it, but shout out to Kobe for just being like a good Black figure. Not even minus, but even with all the BS in the news cycle, I think it's dope seeing like how dedicated he was to his family, to raising his daughter, to actually being an instrumental part of his daughter, and having like especially Black men be comfortable feeling like nobody made fun of Jordan crying. Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a meme, but all these different like strong Black characters at his farewell crying, I think like it was dope to see that, just to see them be that open, that vulnerable.
Yeah, it's okay to
show
feel.
emotion. Yeah. So I think,
just to see like some of the stories Michael Jordan was telling,
right,
like he would just text him at 2, 3 o'clock, and he could just be annoyed, like
it's fucking cold.
Kobe's annoying little brother type of thing, and that made it even sadder because to us he's this iconic figure.
Yeah,
Not
but
even human.
to somebody, he's somebody's annoying little brother.
Yeah,
and I think that's even greater.
Yeah,
that's super dope. So we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks for listening to the Blackstalgia podcast. Be sure to like the Facebook page, Nostalgia, like the Instagram page as well, Nostalgia. Become a supporter if you guys actually rock with the show, rock with us, and share a little money. It's like a Starbucks coffee, a little something. It's $5. You could drop a little something, become a supporter on Facebook, get some behind the scenes. We'll give you guys some behind the scenes, looks and features and everything. Anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, drop a like, share the video, and if you're listening to it on a podcast, leave a review. Let us know what you think. Say good things about myself. And if you feel Lewis and Kelby did all right, you can say that too.
I take hate mail too.
Yeah.
I'm not
Definitely
super sensitive
you can say
about
whatever you want. I'm gonna find you. No, that's it. I'm messing with y'all, man. Thanks for listening to the Blackstalgia.
Wait, you're not gonna give
podcast.
your handles?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at todd.alex with 2 X's.
And you can follow me at KAJSLARE, the number 4.
Well, shit, all right. Sign us out, Kobe.
That's it. Yo, happy Black History Month. It's been an interesting year so far, but honestly, every day that you are wearing this skin and you have this blood coursing through your vein, you are creating Black history, and it's your job to keep the next year's history bigger, better, and blacker than this one.
And don't let this be the last time you're sharing Black stories.
All right.
It's all year round.
That's it. And until next week, this has been Blackstalgia Cast.
Perfect.
Blackstalgia Cast?
Oh yeah.
Until next week, this has been Blackstalgia
Andrew's gonna be like, what?
Cast.
What?
I'll be forgetting.